Welcome back, everybody, to this week's edition of the PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, John McNutt. I can be found on socials at JohnCool19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking PGA DFS golf. It was really cool to see Keegan Bradley get back into the winner's circle at the Zozo Championship last week. But I'm here to talk about this week's CJ Cup. Let's jump right into it. This year, the CJ Cup is being played in South Carolina at the Congaree Golf Club. The last couple of years, it was played in Vegas. Previous to that, it was played in South Korea. Not sure if it will go back next year, but kind of on a hiatus based on COVID for the last couple of years. But now it is in South Carolina. So let's see what we're looking at this week. 7,600-yard course, par 71 with Bermuda grass greens. A couple notes on the course. These are extremely wide fairways, about the easiest to hit on tour. So we're not worried about drive accuracy this week because everyone will be playing from the fairway for the most part. The issue with the fairways, though, is they are fast and firm, and they have located some bunkers for rollouts. So golfers are actually going to be hitting much longer than they typically do. The average drive distance here is well above the tour average, and those bunkers and some other hazards, they've really placed for balls to run out and head into these hazards. So that is the issue for not necessarily just all the long drivers, but maybe some of the less accurate drivers. They will land in the fairway, roll out to where they did not expect to finish. And that is a major defense for this course. It is a lengthy, that's 7,600 yards. So drive distance certainly comes into play. But when they played on this course at the 2021 Palmetto Championship, that's the only time the PGA has been to this course. It was very difficult. The cut was 2 over par, although this week there is no cut, but that just tells you a very difficult course. The field that week was not all that strong. Much better field this week. We've got a whole lot of golfers that are in the top 50 world golf rankings this week. A couple other notes for the course. There are just 3 par 5s this week, and the standard 4 par 3s. The rest all par 4s. Nothing to note necessarily on distance for the par 4s or par 5s. Really, it's kind of spread out with holes at all different lengths this week. Looking back at when they played here at the Palmetto Championship, the low round was 7 under par. That was done a couple times, but really the average score was much lower, much worse than that, I should say. So 7 under kind of is that mark as far as the best round we might see this week. Again, firm and fast, that includes the greens and the fairways, and kind of some tiered greens is what we're looking at this week. So putting more emphasis on approach. As always, I'm putting some ball striking into my modeling as well. Bermuda grass putting should be really important this week. When we looked back, a lot of the better putters of the field tend to play very well on this course when it hosted that Palmetto Championship. I'm also including some drive distance in my modeling. Again, I mentioned that with all of the sand on the course, I'll toss in some sand saves, but mostly I'm going to be focusing that approach, Bermuda putting, as well as bogey avoidance and the proximity from 200 plus. Again, part of that is just the length of this course, but a lot of approach shots come in from 200 plus here, way above the tour average as far as strokes from that distance. So I am more focused on that than I am around the green play. So that's really how I've broken down the course here. So let's jump into some of my favorite picks for the week. I'm actually kind of going with a couple guys right at the top here. First of all, Rory Mcilroy. He is absolutely going to be a favorite golfer in this field. Expect very high ownership on DraftKings, but for good reason. He comes in number 1 overall in my model rankings this week. The form is excellent. He hasn't played on the PGA Tour since the Tour Championship, which he won, but he has been playing on the DP World Tour. He has played 3 events, and he finished 2nd place, 4th place, and 4th place. Excellent form. Before that, the 2 playoff events, the last 2 playoff events, he finished 8th at the BMW and then obviously won the Tour Championship the week after that. He did not play at this course when PGA hosted here previously, But looking kind of into the stats here, he ranks number one in no-cut events in this field. He is second when it comes to difficult scoring courses. And then of all of the comp courses I looked at, he is number one strokes gained in this field for me. So a lot to like there. And then the specific stats, he comes in fourth on approach, number one ball striking and distance, also number one bogey avoidance in this field. And that proximity stat, he is 14th in this field from 200 plus. So a whole lot to like there for Rory. But again, he's going to be super high owned. A guy I might slide a bit of my ownership to. He should be popular, but not quite as much as Rory, and that is Jon Rahm. He is 10-9 on DraftKings and 9-1 outright to win. I do kind of like that 9-1 on Jon Rahm. He was the winner of the Open de España. He won that event by 6 strokes on the DP World Tour here recently. He was also T2. He also has a T2 on the DP World Tour since the Tour Championship. He's played really, if you look back at his logs, he played very little down the stretch of the PGA Tour season, but the events he did play, he finished 5th, 8th, 15th. Those were the 3 playoff events at the very end of the season, so I like that a lot. He's another golfer who did not play on this course previously. When it comes to no-cut events, he ranks 3rd in the field, 4th in comp courses, also 4th in difficult scoring courses. So all of those boxes are checked by Jon Rahm. And then the stats, he is 18th ball striking, 3rd in drive distance, and then top 15 bogey avoidance, 16th on that 200 plus proximity stat. What Jon Rahm can also do very, very well, he is very good on Bermuda grass greens, putting the ball, so that gives him an advantage here as well. So I like both of these guys. I think Scotty Scheffler is going to gain a lot of ownership too, just below them in pricing. So hopefully I think Jon Rahm might come in just a little under-owned versus the other guys around him. If you're looking for somebody to kind of get a little bit more leverage, Jon Rahm. But I think I'm going to start a lot of my GPP lineups right at the top with Rory, with this field being a small field, only just over 70 golfers. You could try and jam both of these guys in because there are some decent golfers in that 6K range this week. It is not filled with just a bunch of scrubs, but there are quite a few Korean Tour players. I'm going to avoid most all of them. But I think some of the PGA Tour pros that are in that 6K range allow you to play 2 of these guys up top if you really want to. I think that's also very contrarian when it comes to builds this week. Most lineups are going to start with one of these 2 or probably Scotty Scheffler, and then jump down into the 9K range and go from there. So let's look at some value plays that are really help you to build your lineups. For me, the number one value play this week is Shane Lowry. He's 8,300 on DraftKings, 22-1 outright to win. I absolutely think he can win this week. He did win just recently on the DP World Tour. That was at the BMW Championship in September. He has 4 top 10s in his last 10 worldwide events. Extremely consistent golfer when it comes to finishing high up the leaderboard, especially the way that DraftKings likes to price him. He can be a bit popular, but I think he's got an excellent chance to finish again top 10 this week. No course history for Shane Lowry, but he is excellent on difficult scoring courses. He is, in my modeling, 5th on approach, 10th in that proximity from 200 plus, 5th bogey avoidance, and he comes in number 2 in sand saves. So even if he is rolling out in some of these fairways into the bunkers, I expect him to be able to recover for pars and birdies as well. So give me a lot of Shane Lowry this week. I think an excellent option and potentially a core lock for me. Another golfer that is not on this slide, a value guy that I like a lot. He's a new golfer on tour. I'm going to butcher his first name, but Seung Young Kim. Go by SH Kim. That is how he is listed on a lot of the sites. SH Kim is 7,100 on DraftKings, but his start to the season, 36th, 13th, and then 4th. If you're looking at the stats, he is gaining strokes in every category: off the tee, approach, around the greens, and putting in each of his last 2 events. He is also very good out of the sand. So there's a lot to like for a guy at 7,100. I think another good value you can plug in. But let's talk about some ownership pivots. These are absolutely GPP plays, not so much for your cash lineups, and much lower owned than some of the other options in their price range. Starting with Billy Horschel, he comes in at 8,000 on DraftKings and probably around 5% ownership is my projection right now. Looking at the golfers around him, that's about half of what Corey Connors will be, a third of what Emiliano Grillo will be. Billy Horschel's an excellent Bermuda grass putter. He's also very, very good around the greens, and he avoids bogeys. I think he's a good option there at 8K. Another guy I like this week, that is Brian Harman, 7,700 on DraftKings and about 7% ownership projected. Looking around him, that's like half of what Aaron Wise and Hoagie will be in the ownership. But I think he's just as good a golfer as both those guys. Maybe Hoagie being a little better week in and week out, but Brian Harman can absolutely pop at this event. He avoids bogeys just like Horschel, and he is excellent short game. And the irons are very good for Brian Harman. He's top 20 on approach in this field the last 36 rounds. One more golfer that I like a little bit lower in the pricing, that's JT Poston. I talked about SH Kim. He is probably going to be about twice the ownership of JT Poston here. JT probably around 5% or so. Keith Mitchell, another guy that's going to be popular right in that 7K range. But think back, just less than a month ago, JT Poston was 10,200 on DraftKings. That was just crazy. We mentioned it on the video then. I thought that was a bit high for him. For a golfer of his caliber, he finished very, very well down the stretch on the PGA Tour last year. But he didn't probably deserve that 10K pricing then, but I definitely don't think he deserves the 7K pricing here in this field. He is not that much worse of a golfer now than he was a month ago. He's only played 2 events. He did miss one cut, and he had a top 20 finish as well. But he's a golfer. He did play in that 2021 Palmetto Championship, missed the cut that week, but he didn't have really his A game going. Looks like he missed quite a few strokes tee to green. That is not JT Poston. So I expect a better outing from him this week. Obviously, no one will be missing the cut. But I think JT Poston gives you some good leverage versus some of those other guys there that, although SH Kim, I do like him, double the ownership for him versus JT Poston. I think JT is probably a better golfer as of right now, especially thinking he was 10K on DraftKings just a couple weeks ago. So those are a couple guys that I think you can certainly try and plug in, give you some leverage, make your lineups unique if you're playing in the MME entries on DraftKings. Certainly something that you do need to think about. So that is it for this week's video. I appreciate you watching. Please like this video, comment below, subscribe to our channel as well. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I am happy to answer them here. You can also find me in the Discord, the Fantasy Sports Insight Discord. That's best found via our Twitter page, at FSI_DFS. You can go to our website as well, FSIDFS.com. In our Discord, we'll be talking weather, ownership, as well as posting core plays over the next day or so, getting ready for the CJ Cup in South Carolina. Thanks for watching. Good luck.